Welcome to the Wokest War in Ohio, where we have the Wokest discourse. I've told you guys all before that I'm a Marxist, and so pretty much everything I say is Marxist. But like I said before, I was an anti-imperialist before I was a Marxist, and a big-time peace activist. So I thought what would be useful to people right now would be non-Marxist arguments for why war is bad, and specifically why this war in Venezuela is a bad idea. Because most of the people that you talk to in your daily life are not Marxists. You're probably not a Marxist. If you're not, I don't know why you're watching this, but this is one of my few non-Marxist videos. Most of the people that you talk to in your regular daily life are not Marxist, and they're not going to be moved at all by Marxist arguments. So I thought I could give you a couple arguments that you can use with friends, family, coworkers about why the war is a bad idea. Okay. First off, I'm going to say I know jack shit about Venezuela. I know jack shit about South America. But a lot of this stuff is the same no matter what country that we invade. Obviously, there are differences, but, Afghanistan was a quagmire, the way Iraq was a quagmire, the way that Vietnam was a quagmire. It doesn't matter where it is. Like, if you invade a foreign country, people don't want you there. And they're going to make it very, very difficult for you to take their country over, especially if they are used to independence the way that Venezuela is. Number one, war is really bad for the environment, which is something that you should care about regardless if you are a progressive or a conservative. Because if you're a conservative, you breathe air and drink water. And as you know, we are currently being poisoned by the world that we live in. So one of the reasons why war is so bad for the environment, before you even get to the bombs and the pollution that those create, is it uses an enormous amount of energy. Just think of all the planes. Think about how much fuel it takes to fly a plane. And then think of all of the flights that war involves. Lots and lots and lots of military flights. So if we, as the United States, were to occupy Venezuela, think about how many flights that is of the material that would need to get sent over there, like ammunition, tanks, whatnot, the people that would have to fly back and forth. That's putting an enormous strain on the world's energy resources. Now, if you're saying, oh, who cares, because we're going to get all this free oil from Venezuela and the price of oil will go down and blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking about the price of oil. I'm talking about carbon emissions. So the more fossil fuels that we use, the more it contributes to global warming. So what we need to be doing right now in terms of global warming is cutting carbon emissions drastically. So anything that's going to increase carbon emissions is very, very, very bad. So one argument that you can make is that, like, even if it were a good idea to go colonize other countries, which it's certainly not a good idea when you're trying to deal with global warming, because it is going to use up a lot of energy, which is going to create a lot of pollution. Second, the environment after you get bombed. Now, in my last video, I talked about depleted uranium. Hopefully, the United States is not going to use depleted uranium in this conflict. It's unclear whether they will or not. They were used in Iraq, they were used in Afghanistan. So would the US use depleted uranium artillery in South America? I don't know. But if they do, that is going to cause a massive amount of cancer, leukemia, birth defects. And like I said before, depleted uranium has a half-life of 4.5 million years. So that means even after 4.5 million years, it's still half as radioactive as it was when you first started. You do not want uranium-236 in your body. It's very bad. It replaces calcium. So one of the things that happens is your teeth will break off as the uranium replaces calcium in your teeth. It replaces calcium in your bones. So even if you don't die from lymphoma, you're gonna be miserable. Look up Gulf War illness and Gulf War syndrome, and that is what will happen to your body. So even if you don't give a shit, first of all, I don't understand how you don't give a shit about the civilian population of Venezuela. They're human beings. I'm sorry, I'm a Christian. It's not cool. It's not cool to give other human beings cancer, period. But let's say you're just evil and you're like, fuck those Venezuelans, we're gonna give them all cancer. Maybe you're so evil you want to just kill them all, replace them with white people. I don't know what your psycho plan is, but just take the Venezuelans out of the picture. Our armed forces are going to be the people who are going to be most impacted in the short term by the use of these weapons. Do you want a whole other generation of our military to come home with lymphoma and all kinds of other health problems? No. And you know what? They don't sign up for that. They don't. Like, there is nothing that says that morally it's acceptable to submit our members of our military to those type of health problems. It's just not necessary. Okay, another argument. Colonialism is not efficient with capitalism. That's why we got rid of colonialism in the first place. So if you want to run a modern neo-colonial system with neoliberalism where you extract the most profit, you don't want to get bogged down in running a colony. That's why the British Empire broke up. Because if you can get the mineral resources is from the country. Like, why do you need to go there and build hospitals? You know, your attitude as a capitalist is like, screw those people. I'm trying to get the oil, right? So you say you want to go take over Venezuela. You know how expensive that's going to be? They have been under an embargo for a long time. Forgive me, I don't know how many years, but I mean, they were fucking around with Chavez back when I was in grad school. I mean, we're talking the the last century. So they've not been able to fund their infrastructure. Similar to the United States, we've drastically underfunded our infrastructure. So it's not like the US is going to go into Venezuela and the whole thing is going to be like a well-oiled machine. No, the country needs to be rebuilt. Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for that? Do you want to pay for that? I don't want to pay for that. Like, I would really like the potholes on my street to get filled in. I really, really, really would like that. And that's not happening. With the compounded draw of data centers on our energy resources, they're predicting that in Ohio, we're going to start to have brownouts, which I don't know if we have ever experienced brownouts in Ohio. To my knowledge, we have never actually experienced that. So I want you to think about what it would be like if you could not use the electricity in your house for half the day. You only had 12 hours a day of electricity. That's what people are living like in places where the grid is overextended, right? Where there's more demand than the physical infrastructure can keep up with. They have to go to brownouts where the power company will turn the power off to different cities. Do you want that to happen in Ohio? Do you want to live like that? I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live like that. Another thing, if there's going to be a colony, if Venezuela is going to be made a colony of the United States, people in Venezuela do not want that. And I'm not just saying that, like, people are in the streets protesting right now in Venezuela. They've been an independent country for a very long time and they do not want to lose their independence. I saw the Trumbull County Republican Party put out some propaganda where they took a photograph of people protesting in Caracas and underneath it put, "The people of Venezuela are celebrating their liberation from socialism." But that's not true. The people in Venezuela want to be socialist. Of course, there are some people who want Venezuela to be capitalist, but they're in the minority. So what does this mean? What this means is it's not like replacing the CEO of a corporation. You can't just say, oh, we're going to take this leader and we're going to put in a new leader. And I know that the United States has done this in the past in South and Central America, and the results were gruesome. First of all, if U.S. troops are involved, they are going to be in mortal danger. The Venezuelan people are not going to allow U.S. troops to come into their country and take over. We can expect to see the same thing that we saw in Iraq, where, if you recall, and some of you are younger, so you don't remember this stuff, but like when they had to build in Baghdad a place called the Green Zone, that they encircled with several layers of security, like walls, physical walls, because people would drive in with trucks with pipe bombs in them. Like you can't, anywhere an American goes in Venezuela, they're going to be a target. They're going to be risking their life. And the Venezuelan people will kill Americans. Period. This is not game time. You know, it's going to be just as hazardous as going to Iraq. Another reason, the children. The children are after the environment. They probably tie with the environment for my number one reason why I oppose war. War always impacts people under the age of 5 the most. The most impacted people in any war situation are under the age of 5. Now, you can hate Venezuelan people for being socialist if you want to, but what about 4-year-olds? I mean, that's what we're dealing with in Palestine, right? Where you have Israelis that say, yeah, kill those babies. Those babies are the enemy. Do you, as a Christian American, want to kill babies? Because that's what war does. Period. It's a baby killing machine. I support abortion rights, but if you call yourself pro-life, you cannot morally stand behind war. Not only does it kill babies, it kills the unborn. And that's something that I really think that if you're Christian, that you should pray on. Other reasons not to support it. It's bad for the economy. A war is a big drain on the economy. We have problems in the United States. Even if you don't want to devote money to stopping global warming, which I think should be the number one goal. Actually, a lot of the things that you would spend money on to stop global warming are things that we need anyway, right? Like power plants and updating our electrical grid, energy, securing reliable energy sources. That's something that we need regardless of what is going on in South America. But, like my dad said earlier, our number one priority right now should be healthcare. And I want to know how going and invading a country in South America is getting me health insurance. Because it's not. I mean, do you know how many million people just lost their health insurance? This war is a distraction. It's a distraction from our healthcare crisis. And crisis, it is a crisis. There are going to be people who die in the United States, tens of thousands of people, more people that died in 9/11 are going to die because they got cut off of their health insurance. Now, isn't that worth fighting for? Do we have solidarity even with fellow Americans? Thanks for listening.